Warren, welcome to the Future of Storytelling podcast. Great to have you.
Charlie, thank you so much for having me. Very excited.
I'm really excited to learn about Sofar. For those people who haven't had the pleasure of attending, can you describe what it is?
Absolutely. So Sofar is in over 250 cities around the world, 78 different countries. And we are a local company in all of those places that puts on music concerts mostly and experiences, usually in a small, intimate venue, two or three artists connecting with the community. And we do that 100 times a week all over the world. In the last year, over 30,000 artists have performed at our small shows, and we do that, basically everywhere.
It's incredible. And tell us about how important those sense of places and how you choose the locations for these performances.
Yeah, the sense of place is critical. So the magic of Sofar is really the combination of performance, place, and community. So we have amazing emerging artists who are always coming to play for us. But really, when you're coming to a Sofar experience, you're excited to be in that venue. It might be, I went to one in London recently. There was a 750-year-old cathedral in the middle of downtown London, and just such
Beautiful.
a special place to spend an evening and hear some emerging artists. And we've been on boats, and we've been at the top of mountains, and we've been at the top of skyscrapers, and the place is just critical to it. And when you come to a Sofar experience, a big part of it is, where are you going to spend these couple hours with us?
And then how about your choice of musicians? How do you go about bringing the talent?
Yeah, we do that very locally. So in all the different 200 plus cities that we're in, there's somebody locally who has their finger on the pulse of who are the emerging artists coming out of our city. And we've had a pretty good track record. We've had artists like Billie Eilish started with us, and Leon Bridges, and more recently, people like Olivia Dean, who's now selling out Madison Square Garden. Tapping into local music communities and other types of culture in cities is how we find the cream of the crop of local artists.
And do you think that people who come and enjoy, are they coming because they want to hear a particular musician? Are they coming because they just trust the quality of the curation that you always do? What's driving that decision to purchase the ticket and come?
Well, for the most part, they don't know who the artists are. So it's really about, hearing and knowing that Sofar is this really cool community that they can come and be part of, and they know that they're going to have a few things. They're going to come to the Sofar show, and they're going to be introduced to three emerging artists probably they haven't heard of before. They trust our curation. Second, they know they're going to be in a cool venue, a great place that wouldn't even normally be considered a music venue. It could range from a really cool backyard or living room to, like I said, sort of a iconic building somewhere. But really, it's about, I want to go to a Sofar experience.
And you talked about community already. How is community fostered? Well, obviously, music has an important role to play, but what are some of the other ways that people get to meet each other, get to connect?
All of these shows that we put on are pretty intimate experiences, from 50 people to maybe a couple hundred. Occasionally we'll do something larger, but there's always a sense of intimacy and interconnection between the people who are at the show, the artists, the host, the MC. And it's a very friendly, safe, welcoming place. There's automatically a feeling of you're kind of walking into something that already has a sense of community, and you're going to be part of that. We've known for years that Sofar has been a great date night. We also know that a lot of people have met there and ended up, getting married. We had even 2 live engagements at shows in the last few months, which is so cool when that happens. But when we saw that, we started a singles themed series of shows. We started it in London. Now it's in 15 different cities, and it's growing to, I think, 50 in the coming weeks. And they're really just selling out constantly because people are there to meet other single people, but in a low pressure way. And what better way to do it than go see some live music?
How important do you think this particular moment in time is for the success that Sofar is having, and why?
Yeah, I just joined Sofar about a year ago, and Sofar's been around for 15 years. And I don't think there's been a better moment for Sofar to exist than right now. And I think that's for a few reasons, really. One, we've seen statistically that Gen Z somehow is the loneliest generation, which just kind of blew my mind when I learned that. You would think it would be older people. We're in this moment in time when people are just so dialed into their screens, and screen time is at an all-time high, coupled with the fact that the explosion of AI driven content means that you're just like flooded with stuff online constantly. So
Right.
there's been this movement to get offline, get outside, get into real life situations, go see live music, go have an experience with people, go out, dining in person. And we're seeing just a massive uptick in more and more people wanting to come out and have those in real life experiences with us.
It's definitely one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on. At Future of Storytelling, we so celebrate the kind of stories where you get to participate, where it's embodied and multisensorial and social, where there is surprise and delight, where there's a unique setting, world building. I mean, you have all of those elements that make it something that's not replicable really through your phone or through your screen. It's a perfect example of what I've always been a proponent of, which is to get people having living stories. Be in the story, and how better than to co-create an evening with three musicians and a bunch, 200 new friends.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the experience of going to a Sofar. I mean, you're hearing the stories behind the music, you're hearing from these artists, you're learning about them, you're meeting other people and hearing their stories. I mean, it really is, it's a live experience, but it's a storytelling experience from beginning to end. And the other half of it that I'm excited about for us this year is we're investing in doing more and more content around our shows and our experiences, and just sort of the ethos of Sofar. So we have work being done on video series and things about the venues and the personal narratives behind the venues and the artists, and there's just so much to it. So I do think in many ways Sofar is an experience company, but it's also a storytelling company.
Well, and all music used to be consumed this way. I mean, all music was performed locally. People used to have lots of instruments in their homes because if you wanted to have music, somebody picked up the instruments and you all played, and people came and sat around. And that's all before we had recorded music. And we've gotten so separated from that. And certainly there's great success right now with concert tours. I mean, we've all seen those mega tours that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people will come out for. But you're so separated from the artist. They're a little speck on a stage way, way away,
Yeah.
and you're basically watching them on television on some giant screen. Whereas here you have a level of intimacy. How important is that to this?
It's so critical. And if you look back to Sofar's founding 15 years ago, Rafe Offer and his friends, they started it because they were living in London, huge music fans. And when you would go to a show, you just started to see people talking the entire time. It was too big. It was that speck up on the stage. So they started it not even to be a business really, but just because it was needed in the world to bring people into a living room. Sofar originally stands for Songs from a Room. And the founder, Rafe, opened up his home in London and just had amazing artists come in. And it really caught fire from there because it turns out there's a lot of artists that were feeling the same way, and a lot of fans who just were not satisfied with the experience of seeing a show in this mass entertainment world. So we've taken that kernel from when we were started into a much bigger thing. But at the heart of it, it is that intimacy and that connection between the artist and the fan, between the fan and the community, and the place. And I think if you think about where this is headed, there's mass entertainment. There's going to always be a room for the big artist in the stadium, and that's super fun, and you should go do that, and that's great, and it costs $500, and there's going to be that. But in music, we have thousands of emerging artists. How great would it be to spend a couple hours in a room with them and really hear their music and connect with them, and then beyond music into comedy, into poetry, I'm excited about culinary. We've started doing some evenings where a local up-and-coming chef can do a pairing, and maybe we have some music too. There's just so many ways that you can create these intimate experiences, and that's what it's about. It's connecting more deeply with the person performing and sharing their art with you.
I'd love to share An example of what it sounds like to be at one of the experiences.
We have a couple of examples here, so let me show you what it looks like and feels like and sounds like to be at a Sofar experience.
Don't back down. Some of y'all ain't open your mouth. Do it for Black excellence. Ba-da. Ba-da. I love it. I love it. All right. You good. Talk of the town, but they don't know mine. So underground, but I don't fit the frame. Don't bother telling me what it feels like, 'cause when you open your mouth, it's just all lies.
And again, that the intimacy of those rooms, of those spaces where there isn't really a stage in most cases, right? I mean, you're literally in a circle, or they're sitting on a chair, or I mean, there's a way in which the physical architecture sometimes creates that distance and mediates between or necessitates a kind of mediation between the live performer and the audience. And you've pulled that all out.
Definitely. And there's really no separation at our shows between artists and the rest of the community. And between sets, they're out talking with everyone. And even when they're not, they're right there. They're right there in front of you. So it really feels like you're having an evening at home or in a, cool setting with the artists themselves, and hearing a little bit about, what these songs mean to them and where they came from. And you really feel like you get to know them a little bit.
We're talking about intimacy, but you're a global company now. You said you're in how many places around the world?
We're in over 200 cities right now. In fact, we just added 50 more since November, so it's closer to 250. And we've had, I think, 30,000 artists in the last year play a show, and we've expanded beyond music. Music is always going to be at our core, but we've gone into some dance shows, which have been awesome, and the singles nights, and trying out culinary and poetry and spoken word and things like that. It's been really great. And what works in Goa may not work in Honolulu, and what works in Los Angeles, where I live, even is different than New York. So we try to be the platform and the enabler of this community, and not dictate, these are the artists that you should get, these are the venues you should get. We're kind of creating the playbook and the support and the platform and the tech and all the things that go into it, and then leaving a lot of room for interpretation locally. We're not trying to be the community in each city. We're trying to sort of support and enable that community.
So tell me, the ticket price for an average Sofar evening is what, $30? Is that right?
On average, it's $30. It ranges by country and city, but we try to keep it affordable and accessible to people while still being able to give back to the artists. And in New York City, I always tell people the two best bangs for your buck are either go ride the ferries in the East River or go to a Sofar show. It's the best, most affordable thing you can do.
Well, I wonder how do you make the economics of that work when if you have 50 people or 100 people, it's not a lot of dollars. So how does that work?
No, there's not a lot to go around just from tickets. So we, like many events companies, try to find ways that we can connect sponsors to the audiences. And we try to do it in as authentic and helpful a way as we can to our community. So a good example might be in the UK, O2 is the largest cell phone company in the service in the UK. And so we started working with them. We were talking about what we could do together. And they really wanted to show that O2's service covers the entire UK without exception. So we worked with them to bring a stage and an audience and some great artists up to the Scottish Highlands, to like the most remote part of the Scottish Highlands that we could find. We built this stage and we created this incredible show. And we zoomed it back through the O2 network to the big giant screens at Outernet in central London. You could walk by and see the Scottish Highlands brought to you by O2, and it's wonderful to be able to find ways to work with brands who can support building more and more community and doing what we do. So investing in brand partnerships and sponsorships is a big part of our business model. And then we're building out our content network, so that opens doors to monetize the content in various ways, like a media outlet would as well. But really, we're mostly focused on a fair price for ticketing, plus how can we have businesses get value out of sponsoring and supporting arts and culture in local communities.
So now I'm seeing the real connection between this and your last job when you were at Atlas Obscura and helping to run that. Tell us a little bit how that worked and how similar in some ways, or where you see the overlaps and connections.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing how similar these two companies are. So if you're not aware, Atlas Obscura is the travel company for off the beaten path discovery of the places that you wouldn't find in a guidebook. And it could range from something just totally obscure and interesting in your backyard to something on the other side of the planet. So that's Atlas Obscura. And it very much is a community of global travelers and, curious people, basically. When I started to think about, what was I going to do after 5 years at Atlas Obscura, and I knew about Sofar. I had been to some Sofar shows. I loved the feeling of it. I realized pretty quickly that the through line is essentially these are two organizations whose whole mission is to inspire a sense of wonder, joy, and a thrill about being in real life and, getting people offline and experiencing the amazing things that the real world has to offer. So at the heart of it, that's what it's about. It also has a lot of other similarities, like they both had a very local angle. So all of Atlas Obscura is about place. With Sofar, we do have artists that go around and tour a bit, but for the most part, you're going to a city and you're experiencing the venue, the artists, the people from that city. So it's a very similar experience, and it's similarly sized company, a similar sort of way of operating.
Sofar was originally founded to help support artists, right? We've been talking mostly from the perspective of the guests, but tell us a little bit about how you really think about supporting the musicians.
Yeah, I mean, originally, and it continues to be critical for us to want to give emerging artists a leg up. I love, and I think we all love and feel a sense of responsibility that Sofar is a place for those artists to get exposure, and it's worked. In many cases, we have a lot of alumni who've gone on to build incredible careers. So that's very cool. And we're also, financially, we're able, these are small shows, but in our own way, we're able to, put millions of dollars back into the hands of artists, which is great.
Amazing.
My feeling going forward is the best thing that we can do for these artists that are so important to us and to these communities is be really, really good at getting people to the shows. So where our focus is, how do we make amazing experiences that people want to go to? How do we get really good at fostering community and enabling community in all these different cities? And that's actually going to be the best thing we can do for the artist is build a bigger audience. So that's how we're thinking about supporting artists going forward.
And I can imagine that the loyalty, that the development of real fans is just so much greater when you've met somebody in person or you've at least seen them live and got a sense of their whole vibe, not just the music, the streaming, or a music video, very carefully produced, but actually you get a sense of the human being who's creating that emotionally powerful music. And if it resonates with you, the connection's going to be many times stronger than if you just heard it on your playlist.
Definitely, 100%. And when you see the reaction at a Sofar show by the people in the room, running up and asking how they can stay in touch and follow them from that, it's just such a good feeling. And you do, you feel like you know the person. You do know the person at that point, which is
right.
such a cool thing that you can't get when you find something online or on an app.
I talk about this a lot in the context of storytelling, and it was a very influential book that I read, Annie Murphy Paul's book that talks all about embodied cognition. She talks about a scientist or scientific research that shows that emotion starts in the body. And if you think about music, it's even more so because there are literally waves that are hitting the body. So I think the ability to be moved by music is much, much more powerful when it's experienced live, when you're feeling it, not just seeing it. So it makes total sense to me that the engagement between the fans that go to Sofar and the artists would be much stronger than any other form of discovery of new artists.
I have to go find that book, by the way. That sounds fascinating. We've been talking about the physical reaction to music a lot lately, why we have this physiological response to music and what that means in a greater context and things like that. The emotional reaction to music at Sofar shows for me starts before the music even starts. And then when it kicks in, you just see the vulnerability and the honesty that's coming through, with many of these musicians. And then you look around the room and you're experiencing this with a community of people, a small group of people. And it's funny, when you leave, you almost feel like, wow, I'm going to miss this group because you've experienced this thing together. So yeah, I mean, there's not just Sofar, but just in general, I think there's just this really interesting physiological part of it. Now, with social media addiction and, people just feeling more disconnected, you wonder, like, what is that lack of physiological response doing to us? It can't be good, So,
Yeah.
So getting out there and being out with other people, I mean, there's a reason we're meant to be social beings. And yeah, I'm just happy I can work in an area that we get to do that more and more. Once you do get out in real life and realize, like, oh, just that act of being together makes a huge difference.
Temperature rising. AC gets hot in the summertime. You'll come to find that everybody but you knows how this story goes. Everybody but you knows how this story goes.
This conversation also reminds me, we had David Byrne on the podcast a while back, and he has this amazing book about music, and in it, one of his theories is that music evolved in a way with the venues, that the type of music that can be played responded to the kind of venues that were available for musicians, and so I think about that in this case as well. We've moved to music that's happening in venues that are so large, so almost impersonal, that you've lost connection to the artist almost entirely, it really feels like to me. So the point I'm making is that with Sofar, you're able to go back to a scale of venue that allows for a kind of emotional and intimacy. And I think part of that's just driven by the economics, right? I mean, anybody who's good is always trying to get in front of a bigger group, which just naturally means you've gotten farther away and the quality of the musical and emotional experience has shifted radically.
It's interesting for us to see when Sofar artists who've gotten bigger then sort of sneakily go around their label and come back and ask if they can do a sort of stripped down little show on the side with us. And they miss it too. They miss that direct communication that they can have on stage with their audience, which I think is part of the artistic process, to be able to feel what the artist is reacting to. And if you're on a stadium stage, which I have never been, I can't say from firsthand experience, I imagine it's not the same.
I mean, it does seem that part of the secret sauce here is how to scale community. But I mean, the fact that you've been so successful, that you're in 250 cities around the world, that you've got tens and tens of thousands of people experiencing music, every year, it does seem like there's something you've tapped into about how to scale that intimacy, like basically how to recreate that in many places at the same time.
Yeah, I think that comes to us trying not to tell people what the community should be exactly. It's more, we're just providing the tools to do it. And we're not I don't want to say that Sofar is the only one doing it. In Silver Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles, there's a coffee shop near me that every week has a reading night, and half of it is you're literally just sitting there reading with other people, and the other half is people get up and read something that they're interested in. And I keep trying to go, but every time I get on the website, I know the minute that they go live, it sells out in like a second. And there's just so many examples of that where people are looking to get out and be part of these communities, and we're supportive of anything like that. It doesn't have to be Sofar, but we're just happy when people are getting out and finding ways to be with each other around art and culture.
And what's your vision for where Sofar is headed? What's next?
Yeah, so we have a couple goals in mind for the future. One being, how do we just make ourselves even better at adding producers in local markets to our platform? So every market that we're in, every city that we're in, there's one or more local producers who are people who really care about the arts and music and community in their city. and signing them up and recruiting them onto our platform and supporting them in every way we can is how we're going to scale that and just have, sort of an unlimited number of Sofar producers on the platform. And then what I get excited about is, we'll do that, but then it sort of opens a door to being able to welcome other communities and brands who might have a similar type ethos, people who do different kinds of things like Sofar, being able to use our platform and have access to our audience and our tools. I mean, that would build this sort of rebel alliance, I call it, where we're sort of the alternative to the big mass entertainment options that, you'll go to that, but this would be an even more rewarding experience.
Well, psyched. We'll start working with you for the Sofar storytelling.
Would love that. I think about what you do and things like The Moth and others, and that definitely have a place with Sofar. We've done a lot of spoken word type experiences and events, and we want to do more. So that would be great.
Well, Warren, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Excited for how great things are going for Sofar. Obviously, anything that gets people out enjoying culture, art, in person, on a human scale, and reconnecting with each other is just so valuable. So thank you for the great work you all are doing.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really just such a thrill to be here, and we love what you do.